All right. So, welcome to the Homeschoolers Meet. I'm sure more people are going to join in, but we will start with a short prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Loving Jesus, we want to thank you and praise you for this day. Thank you, Lord, for all that you're going to speak to us and for everything that you're doing in our lives, in our homes, in our children's lives. Jesus, we are imperfect. But we know, Lord, that you are a perfect God, desiring to work with our imperfectness and to work through us in our children and through our children in our own lives. We give to you each of us who have already joined and who are going to join later on. We pray that every word that comes out from our mouth, especially as Rajita explains the Montessori-inspired homeschooling methodology, we pray that every word that comes out of her mouth will be words that you have put into her heart, into her mouth. Jesus, we pray blessings upon everyone who is joining, and we pray for a powerful anointing of the Holy Spirit. Let your holy will be done. And we pray and offer all our anxieties and our worries to you. Jesus, we know that we are safe and our children are safe in your holy hands. We offer this meeting through the Immaculate Heart of Mary into the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. So welcome everybody to this homeschoolers orientation meeting. Are you able to hear me? I think there's a little bit of a disturbance because of some fumigation that's going on in the apartment. It should be over in about 2-3 minutes. Can you hear the sound?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Just give me a minute. All right. So we've been having these homeschooler orientation meetings for the last couple of, I think we've had 2 meetings so far. This is the 3rd one, and we intend to continue these meetings because increasingly there are many parents, many adults who have shown interest in knowing more about homeschooling. Homeschooling is not, outsourcing our learning to someone outside and just making sure that our children get a lot of academic inputs. We've been doing this orientation over the last we did it over the last 2 sessions, but that was focusing on the Robinson curriculum. Today, we are going to focus on Montessori inspired methodology, and who could do it better than someone who is already practicing this, right? So we have Rajita, a beautiful mom of 2 boys who has been using Montessori material and trying to set up the environment as much as possible.
Voice is breaking.
And to help her children pick up whatever she has, they have to pick up from life and the environment through Montessori, through the Montessori approach. Many of us may not be very familiar with it. And so we can ask our questions after Rajita has finished her presentation. Rajita, are you there? So I'm not going to say much, but maybe
Chechi, your voice is actually
are you okay?
I could not hear. The connection is off.
Internet okay?
Your internet.
Sorry, I think it was it my internet?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So without we won't have too much of introductions. I think Rajita, you can introduce yourself and then take us through this session. All right.
Yeah. So hi everyone, I'm Rajita Martin, and thank you Chechi for having this session with me. Am I audible? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm married to Martin and we are blessed with 2 children, Eric, who is 5 years old, and Andrew, who is 18 months old. and I have my, I did my engineering in electronics and communications and my MBA in HR and marketing from Loyola Institute of Business Management. I was working as a senior business analyst before, and then I quit when we were blessed with Eric. And I have a small hobby, crochet and baking business, mostly like a hobby, but not a business type. But yeah, and that's about us. And we have been homeschooling our children from the start. And my son hasn't gone to a preschool or a play school, has never been to any of the schools as such. And that's about me. So, and yeah, I come from a family of five, like my mom, dad, and I have two younger sisters. We are a very close-knit family. And I really love the way my dad has inculcated all these values in me. So whatever good I see in myself is because of my parents, I feel. So yeah, so without much further ado, so let's start with
Also tell us why you decided to homeschool your children.
that's a long story, Chechi, but long story short, actually, though I had the desire of homeschooling, seeing Saumika, Anna and his kids, Nadisha and all. I had the desire for my children, but I didn't know whether it will happen or not. And I was very worried about whole the academics, how it will go and all, whether they'll be, left out and all. But thanks to COVID, it made it happen for us. So, and we were pushed into that side where we were not a screen-free family, but then we did not believe in getting the learning through a screen when the child has not had any concrete experience. We did not believe that it will help the child or it will help him in the long process. So we had to take it into our own hands and go ahead with whatever was there. So yeah. And I'll touch upon the point why Montessori, but before that, we have to understand what is Montessori method and why we have chosen the Montessori method. So yeah, so whatever I'm sharing today is like what I've learned from reading various books, attending some sessions, and attending some workshops. And I'm not a Montessorian or a childhood development specialist or educator. So kindly bear with me if I'm going off track or if I'm too fast or too slow, or if you feel something is off, please get back to me for all feedback is welcome. But yeah, this is my experience and I'm sharing my journey, how we have started a Montessori and a little bit of what Montessori methodology is. So I'm going to start sharing my screen.
So the fact that you are not a trained Montessorian or you've not done formal courses. I mean, you have done a few courses, but then that should give us some sort of confidence for parents who are considering this as a beautiful way of not teaching, learning, right?
Yes, learning. Yes, helping the child and educating the child for life. So yes. So yeah. So I wanted to start this presentation with the prayer that Maria Montessori wrote herself. That is, help us, O God, to enter into the secret of childhood, so that we may know, love, and serve the child in accordance with the laws of thy justice and following thy holy will. Amen. Jesus be with us. Mama Mary be with us. Saint Joseph be with us. Holy Spirit guide us. So I actually asked Chechi if if we can have 10 centimeter square, but I'm sure everyone may not be ready with it, but that's okay. Oh, so okay, Chechi is ready, so good. Okay, but I have a small change. I have a 12 centimeter square here, but that's okay. So anyone, can you tell me what is this? Like, you can unmute and you can tell me what do you see, or put it in the comments. Unmute yourself. Anything? Another clue?
Shape.
It's okay. Another clue is it's related to Max.
Come, we can
I
unmute it.
missed the question. What was the question,
Dividing
please,
the
Rachita?
space.
Okay.
So I think someone wanted the question.
The question is, can you guess what am I going to show? Like, what is this? What am I going to show? It's a maths concept. So can anyone guess what is this?
About squares.
Yeah, correct. And does any formula strike your mind when you think about square? Basic formula.
A plus B the whole square.
Yes. So yes. So this is how in Montessori A plus B whole square is taught. So when I came to know about this, I was so excited, like, oh wow, this is how the children will learn. And this is how it's so easy to understand that actually there are two variants of the length, and with respect to these each variants, there are two squares,
Sorry to
and then there
interrupt. Are you actually recording this? Because I think earlier when there was a network interruption, the recording had stopped.
I think I am recording it.
It's on. We
yes.
can see it's on. Recording is on.
Yes, the recording is on. Yes, it is.
Okay. So yeah. So when I saw this, I was so excited and I wanted my child to learn this kind of in this manner, that to understand the concepts than just memorizing A plus B whole square. What is that? So coming to the point, what is Montessori methodology? What is Montessori? It is education philosophy and which is developed by Dr. Maria Montessori. She was an Italian doctor and a researcher in the 1900s, and then she was asked to work with special needs children. And when she was also, she's the author of Mass Explained to Children and Child in the Church. When she was given these children, she found out that the children were able to understand things and be on par with children who don't have any special needs, if they were given certain materials and stimulus. So based on that, when she presented that to the authorities, they asked her to work with children who don't have any needs, and they found tremendous results and improvement in how the children were working by themselves and they were learning by themselves. So when she observed the children across the world, she came to know that there are certain parameters which are common across the children, and it is divided into certain groups and ages. So based on these observations, he has come up with a very groundbreaking child development education method, which is called the Montessori method. So she found out that children had unique and powerful brains that worked completely different from the adult brain. And then she felt that there is a need for them to be respected, and their development needs to be respected, and their interests have to be just a minute. Yeah, she found out that through each stage, the children needs to be respected deeply and their interests have to be followed. And when placed in a specially prepared environment, children would thrive. So what is this Montessori methodology? This methodology has three pillars. Just like how our Trinity is like God, Father, and Son, she came up with three pillars. That is the child, the preparation of the adult, and the preparation of the environment. So to understand what it means to understand a child, we have to understand what is the plane of development that Maria Montessori has come up with. This planes of development is similar to the metamorphosis of a butterfly, where the caterpillar starts off crawling, wriggling, and then it moves into become a beautiful butterfly. When the caterpillar is in the crawling stage and it is in the caterpillar stage, we cannot aid the caterpillar by giving a garden full of flowers, or we cannot help the butterfly to giving some green leaves. So she felt that for each child, there is a development stage, and that development stage needs to be respected, and appropriate help needs to be given to that child at that particular time so that they will be able to thrive. She has divided the childhood development into 4 stages. That is the infancy, which is the absorbent mind. That stage phases that is there from 0 to 6 years, and it has a divided plane of 0 to 3 and 3 to 6. Then next comes the childhood reasoning, which is from 6 to 12. And then the adolescent stage, which is self-constructing adult, that is from 12 to 18, and the young adult, that is the vocation stage from 18 to 24. We'll see all these stages a little more in detail in the coming slides. So the infancy stage is called the absorbent mind stage, where it means the child is always asking the adult to help me do it myself. She says there is in a child a special kind of sensitivity which leads him to absorb everything about him, and it is this work of observing and absorbing that alone enables him to adapt himself to life. He does it in virtue of an unconscious power that exists in childhood. The first period of child's life is one of adaptation. So what she means is there are during the stage of 0 to 6 years, the 0 to 3 especially is the power of unconscious mind where children absorb everything. And from 3 to 6 is the time where children construct themselves physically and spiritually. If you see a small baby who is born so cuddly and sweet and who can't even move or walk, but the child will be developing into a beautiful toddler who can walk and talk and sing. So there's an immense development at this point in time. So, and she mentions that the amount of learning that happens in this stage is like you cannot find that much amount of learning or development in any other stages of life. So she says this is the stage of absorbent mind where everything gets absorbed by the child. Whatever is put by the adult in the environment gets absorbed, meaning if there is they cannot have the fictional mind or imaginative mind. They only have a reality mind of what is there in the environment that gets picked up. If there are parents who are speaking different languages, that gets absorbed, that gets picked up. If there is music in the environment, that gets picked up. So it is important to understand that whatever is there in the environment gets absorbed by the child so that he will construct himself and start expecting, okay, what is the world around me? How I should be behaving, how my parents are behaving. All these things happen to the child unconsciously in the 0 to 3 phase itself. And then in this stage, she found out that the child has many needs, both physical and emotional. Emotionally, the child needs to feel protected, loved, and needs that security and warmth. The child always has also the inner urge of order and move and the inner urge to move freely and of independence. If you see any toddler, they want to pick up the heavy things and go. Even if you say no, baby, don't do it, they want to do it, and they want to imitate the adults. They want to sweep when we are sweeping, and if you are on the phone, they want to imitate that. So this is the time they absorb everything that is there around them, and they construct themselves in the 3 to 6 years phase. And she believed that a prepared environment should be provided to allow this child to explore and experience the purposeful activities that are there. And this is the stage of a sensorial explorer. This is the stage where they absorb everything through their senses. If you see a small child, if you give anything to a small baby who's 3 months or 5 months old, straight goes into the mouth because they want to understand, they want to absorb with their senses, they want to touch, feel, keep it close and see. So that's how the child at this stage will be, is what she says. And she says, with this absorbent mind becoming conscious during the second subplane, child requires factual and sensorial exploration, and the knowledge, will, and memory develop through activity, that is work and concentration. So what is work and concentration? Maria Montessori states that normalization is nothing but a child who is in a happy, peaceful state. Just like how we adults, after doing a meaningful work, how we feel happy and a sense of calm, a state where the child is calm and is able to work with the material at hand without any disturbances and is internally driven to work. So that stage she calls as normalization and a regulated child. So normalization comes about through concentration on a piece of work. And for this, we must provide motives for activities so well adapted to the child's interest that they provoke his deep attention. The essential thing is for the task to arouse such an interest that it engages the whole child's personality. So what she says is the activities and things around the child should be in such a way that it arises an immense amount of interest in the child to work with that material, which helps the child to concentrate. And when the child is active and is about in the and is interested, and the interest will bring about the concentration. And concentration, according to her, is one's whole personality becoming engaged in one task. And she said this concentration is very essential because this is the first step for a spiritual life or for the education, because without concentration, child will not have the inner sense to sit through the lessons or to understand, okay, why, what, and all. So she feels concentration is the first step for a spiritual or an educational life. And how does this intellect and will in a young child develop? It develops through meaningful interaction with their environment that brings about self-construction, meaning she taught that meaningful interaction and self-construction as a work, meaning whatever the child does is meaningful for them. Just like how St. John Paul II said, right? The definition of work is any activity that is beneficial for a man. So when a child at this age is working on something or playing with something, it gives meaning to them because they're internalizing, exploring, and absorbing what is happening. So that gives meaning to them. So even if you see a child mopping and sweeping, you let the child do it because that's how the concentration improves. And that is very much required for the next phases of life. And then they are working to coordinate their whole being, just as St. Thomas Aquinas said that work of a man is to make the body an apt instrument of soul. That is what the child is doing when they're working on a particular task or a play or any activity. And she found out during this first phase, there are sensitive periods in this first plane of development. Sensitive periods are nothing but windows of opportunity where the child has an innate, immense drive to learn a particular skill. For example, when the baby is becoming 3 months old, you see that baby wants to roll. That's a skill. That's a sensitive period for movement. And the baby is sitting, trying to sit and trying to crawl. That is also a sensitive period for movement. So she says there are certain sensitive periods in this first plane of development when we help the child at that particular sensitive phase. The child will be able to grasp the concepts better and will be able to work on their skills better. So what are the few of the sensitive periods she says are? There are sensitive periods for movement, as we all know how the small baby becomes, a toddler who will walk and balance himself. And there is sensitive period for language. So people at language, when we see that child is interested in language, we surround the child with reading lots of books, games and sound games, and, start with the sandpaper letters and so on. And there is a sensitive period for music. There is sensitive period for small order objects. That is, they'll start focusing on the small details. When the baby is born from 0 to 3 months, baby can only see a black and white picture. But as the time goes on, baby will be able to focus on the small details of whatever is there at the hand. And then there are certain other sensitive periods like for grace and courtesy, that is good manners. Grace and courtesy is a big thing in Montessori, and I love it because that is when you simulate and tell the child how to behave, because they are absorbing and they are trying to understand. They don't know how to behave by themselves. But when do we teach? We don't teach when the situation is there. We need to help the child to understand before it. We simulate the situation. For example, if we are going to meet someone, how do you greet the person? You shake your hand, you say hi, you say hello. So that is also taught in this Montessori method. So I really love the way even grace and courtesy and practical life, everything is there. And then there's a sensitive period for refinement of senses and writing, reading, and maths. So in all, this is the phase of absorbent mind, and the child absorbs unconsciously everything during the 0 to 3 phase. And from 3 to 6 phase, the child will start constructing himself with whatever information is available to him from the environment. And the next comes the childhood phase, which is from 6 to 12, that is the reasoning mind. And the motto of this phase is help me to think for myself. So this is the phase which is relatively calmer than the first phase, than the stable. But there is a great potential for intellectual development. The mind just starts exploding with information. They want to understand everything. They have the appetite to understand and learn things, whatever is there around. And from a state of, sensorial explorer, they start moving into abstract thinker. When I heard about it, I thought, okay, maybe let's see. But I really see my son getting into the phase of abstract thinking because he's able to do mental math now. Before he needed that materials to do it. So for once it is, yeah, that is true. And then they start into details. They want to know why, how, what. And when you see a toddler also asks lots of questions like why, how, and all. But by the time you explain the toddler will be like off and gone into his own world of exploration. But here the child will stay and remain and understand, okay, why, how, what. And they start imagining like past, present, future. They want to know everything. So this is the time where Maria Montessori says, if you want to teach anything that you want to teach a child by the age of 18, you have to give that child that information by the age of 12. We'll see why she said that way. And also this is a stage where everything helps him to become a social explorer, meaning if you see a toddler from 0 to 6, they would mostly, they're on their own. They don't like working in a group. And even if we make them sit together, they may work one or two things and then again they'll go back into their own zone of exploration. But whereas the children from 6 to 12, she has observed that they love to be in big groups. They love to have rules and they love to work together and they are ready for the big project. And then the sense of justice starts developing at this age. So they want to understand what is fair, what is not fair. I hope all you parents must be hearing that's not fair. The main thing, it's not fair. That's not fair. So this is what we keep hearing from the children at this age. And then this is also a period of hero worship. And she says this is the exact time and a very good time to introduce about saints. And they love to understand what the legends are, how they were there, how they were helping others, and what big works they have done. They would be really interested in all of that. And let us see some excerpts from Maria Montessori book, To Educate the Human Potential. She says, there is no limit as to what must be offered to the child. It's not in a syllabus to be imposed upon him or with exactitude of detail, but in the broadcasting of maximum number of seeds of interest. This will be held lightly in the mind, but will be capable of later germination as they become more directed. And she also says, knowledge can be best given when there is eagerness to learn. So this is the period when the seed of everything can be sown. The child's mind being like a fertile field, ready to receive what will germinate into culture. But if neglected during this period, frustrated in its vital needs, the mind of the child becomes artificially dull and henceforth to resist imparted knowledge. So in the Montessori curriculum, so for the elementary age, that is from 6 to 12, they start off with this cosmic lessons like the Great 5 lessons. I have just put up a link. If anyone is interested, can go and check it out. It starts with the creation and then how the life has started and the coming of life, and then the maths, the development of language. So she has created the Great 5 lessons, which will spark interest in the child. And these all are integrated and called cosmic because they all are integrated, as in the chemistry, physics, science, everything is integrated together. So that's why they call it as cosmic Montessori education during the elementary levels. And yeah, I have not come into this area yet. My child is still 5, so he'll soon be 6. And so I've only explored 5 to 6, and soon I have to start reading up on this 6 to 12 age as well. So next comes the adolescent stage, which is between 12 to 18, which is a self-constructing adult. And the motto of this stage is to help me find myself. So this is the stage which is, Maria Montessori says, is very much similar to the first plane of development, where there are 2 subplanes, and also the development wise and emotionally, it is similar to the first phase of development, because there'll be a lot of physical changes, hormonal changes at puberty hits at this stage. So she says that during the 12 to 15 stage, that is the lowest point for academic learning. That is also one of the reasons why she found out anything you want to teach your children or educate the children, tell it them before the age of 12, because 12 to 15 is the time they'll start exploring the changes and what's happening with me, how and all, and they'll be in their own thing, like how the small newborn 3 to 3 phases. And yeah, there are she says that there are huge rapid physical and emotional changes, and they're very emotional and sensitive. And just like the first plane, they need a very nurturing environment. Though they start growing up and try to be the adults, they would love to have that security and sense of warmth from their parents, a good nurturing environment. And the need for respect increases, and also for the social justice. And then the thirst for again learning things back starts from the 15 to 18 phase. And then they at this phase, she says that they need strong adults who will help them explore, who love their work and who will welcome them into their adult life. So what she says is, from childhood to adolescence, from the same book. She says, therefore, work on land is an introduction both to the nature and to civilization, and gives a limitless field for scientific and historic studies. If the produce can be used commercially, this brings in the fundamental mechanism of society, that of production and exchange, on which economic life is based. This means that there is an opportunity to learn both academically and through actual experience what are elements of social life. What she says is the education during this phase, especially 12 to 15, should be on a farm far off, where they are able to produce something by themselves, make something with their own hands and sell their produce, and then start exploring how it will be to live as an adult, so that it will give an ample opportunity for them and confidence that they will be able to get into the adult world and live by themselves. She also says that economic independence would result in a valorization of his personality, in making him feel himself capable of succeeding in life by his own efforts and on his own merits. And at the same time, it would put him in direct contact with supreme reality of social life. We speak therefore of letting him earn money by his own work. So next comes the young adult stage, that is the vocation phase from 18 to 24 years of age. And this is the stage where the child says, help me support myself. And this is the stage of spiritual, emotional, moral independence, and have their own personal interests about their career and what they need to do about their vocation. And then evaluation of social policy and they start having the personal responsibility to do things, to give back to the society, and then to the whole humanity as such, and discovery of one's vocation. And she says that it is important for, in this stage also, to have mentors who would help them with their vocation. So in conclusion, the four planes of development would be infancy 0 to 6, that is the absorbent mind, where the 0 to 3 is the unconscious mind, and 3 to 6 is the construction mind, where the sensorial exploration happens. And the better they develop by independent, with movement and through language, they'll be able to fulfill their skills in this phase. And then comes the childhood stage, where it is the child of this is the stage of intellectual development and a plane of abstract thinking of what happens, what is there, how, what, why. And then the beginning of getting a social justice and what is right and what is wrong. And then comes the adolescent stage, this is the third plane. The child begins to seek the vocation and desires to provide service, but they also have lots of internal regression during the initial subplane, and then they start picking up in the second plane of development. And the child is becoming more adult-like, but yet they still need a strong and emotional support for his environment. And then comes the young adult stage, which is from 18-24. And in this fourth plane, the child finalizes the development and becomes the norm of the species. And if all the previous planes have developed to their full potential, this man will not be mired down with undue obstacles, but will be ready to live a full, abundant life in service to his family, himself, and all humanity. So we have seen the child aspect of the Montessori methodology, and it says that education as an aid for life. So many psychologists have found out described these different phases of development in a child, but Montessori was the only one who was able to respond to it as a means of education and has refined education as an aid to life, suggesting that if we support the natural development of child at each plane, then we'll be able to optimize the development for the whole human being. And then she suggested that there is unique time in child's life when he is most able to take a particular developmental step. And it is imperative of us to give that opportunity so that the child will be able to grasp it and reach its full individual potential. And then comes the next part of the Montessori method, that's the preparation of the adult. And I love this part, where the preparation of the adult, there are 4 ways in which the adult becomes prepared to work with the child in a prepared environment. That is spiritually, intellectually, technically, and physically. So what is spiritual preparation? Maria Montessori says, the teacher, therefore, who would think that he could prepare himself for his mission through study alone would be mistaken. The first thing required of a teacher is that he be rightly disposed for his task. It is not sufficient to have a merely theoretical knowledge of education, but the prepared adult should be disposed for the task and should be reflecting and should be having a spiritual contemplation of whether he or she is doing justice as a prepared adult or not. And she says for a spiritual preparation, anger is one thing which always comes as an obstacle. She says, anger is a natural reaction to many situations with its component emotional, mental, and physical responses. But the adult must be the mature one in order to provide a healthy environment for both the child and the adult, one in which both can grow and thrive in their ongoing spiritual development. In addition to anger, other obstacles to spiritual development are pride, inflexibility, impatience, each of which can stem from some form of anger. So she says that we have to root out these vices of anger and pride and cultivate ourselves with humility and kindness on a daily basis. And then she says another aspect of spiritual preparation is listening to the adult. Listening aspect. That is, the adult should have the ability to listen to a child, not just at a technical level, but really understand what the child is saying. Why is the child saying? And not just listen and just leave it, but to try to understand and help the child with what the child's issue is. And she says that we have to find our own starting point for improvement, that we're so concerned with correcting the children's faults that we forget to look to ourselves and to our own responsibility. I really love this part of spiritual preparation because, especially the one where she says the adult should be the matured one in the whole situation. That belongs in everyday day-to-day life as well, right? Not just the education. So it has really helped me to understand and think about myself, whether am I being like that or not. Then comes the intellectual, technical, and physical preparation, where she says intellectually we need to understand the child's development and Montessori principles in order to apply our love for the children and towards assisting in their self-construction. She says observation is the key in the Montessori method. So we approach, what does she mean by observation? The observation here, we approach the observation of the child and the environment in a scientific way. So we observe what the child is working on at this present time. What is the child, like for example, is the child is interested in, taking things and putting them out and then again keeping them back. So we observe that and we help the child to acquire that skill by enabling those kind of activities on the shelf. So she says it should be in a scientific way, which we are constantly perfecting in order that our biases will remain out of the way and only the full truth be revealed. So this is very important point here, because when we are setting up the table and we understand we have kept so well and prepared it so beautifully, but the child may touch it, may not touch it, may be interested in working with it, may not be interested in working with it. So when that happens, we observe it, we approach it in a scientific way. Okay, this is being considered by the child to play. This is not being considered. So what can we do? Okay, what phase he is in? So it is like a scientific way, but nothing emotional. Oh, I set up the table. He's not even interested. What to do? Which means that he is working on a different skill at that point in time. And then technical preparation, she means one must study deeply the developmental materials and their aims, how to present them. the theory behind them, why we have them in, and how to prepare them as well. The adult must understand and develop skills for making and developing these materials as well. And she says physical preparation as in the way the adult should be physically prepared in the environment, like how you're presenting yourself when you're educating your child. Are you worn out? Are you happy? Are you joyful? Are you dressed in a decent and appropriate way, or just going out like that? So she tells all these are very important factors when you're preparing yourself to educate the child. So in conclusion, the prepared adult, all of the above is nourished and sustained by love. So love for the child is instinctual and our most important ally in working with the child. In all aspects of life, always look at what is possible for this child, this adult, this relationship, as well as what is my responsibility to bring this potentiality to reality. So then comes the other third leg of preparation, that is the preparation of the environment, which is the area where I struggle a lot. So yeah, she says the environment required by the child is one in which he can function and develop. So it should be an intentional environment where everything has a purpose. The purpose of putting into readiness for the child, all that is necessary for his work of development. And the most astounding characteristics of this prepared environment are its order, beauty, and simplicity. Here, she doesn't mean beauty means all the luxurious grand stuff, but the way it is simple and beautiful. Like if you see a flower, how beautiful it is. It's so that's what she means. And children, especially in the 0 to 6 phase and 0 to 3 phase, they want something to be in a particular order. And also they suggest arranging the activities in ascending order of difficulty. So we have to make sure that we understand what the child is working on, observe their interest, and arrange the activities in such a way that there is some order, there is beauty and simplicity towards it. So we need not go for all these expensive materials or anything, but make sure that these three are the guiding factors when you are arranging the shelves for a child. And then the areas of learning in Montessori method are the sensorial, where these are the exercise activities which help the child to refine their own senses. And then the practical life, where these are the exercises that the child can learn how to do a living activities in a purposeful way. Language, max, cultural. In cultural, you have science, geography, history, grace and courtesy, art, music, everything. So why Montessori inspired homeschooling? So this is the question. So apart from the fact that it is a hands-on and concrete method, I really love the fact that it is an education method that is an aid and preparation for life and for adulthood. This approach explains children what is lifelong learning is and why it is essential and exciting. It is a self-driven process for the children. It is not a passive method where, the teacher will be teaching and then the student will be making notes and writing down, but exploration of what is there and how they understand things through their exploration. And it allows movement, freedom to choose their work, and it is child-led and solid understanding of concepts and hands-on, especially for 3 to 6. So I love all these things. And it helped me to understand and prepare myself to educate my child. That is one more important factor why we chose Montessori inspired homeschooling. And then Montessori education seeks to fulfill a child's need at every age of life. Indeed, Montessori is a way of life, a way of observing what is present and bringing about a beautiful fruition of each person's greatest God-given potential. So how we started, we started with preparing myself. Spiritually, I started with the fact that my kids, I'm just guardian to my kids and they are God's own children. And how do I educate this person or the child that God has given me? Praying for graces, and Saint Joseph is my go-to saint for my homeschooling. Any issues, I start my novena, and that's how he helps me with wherever I'm stuck. And observing myself and making note of the times when am I getting angry, when am I getting frustrated, where am I taking more effort in arranging the shelves, what am I doing, how am I behaving when I'm giving the lesson, how am I behaving when he's not understanding a concept. So these all things help me to refine myself and my approach to educate my child. And then intellectually, technically, and physically, I started reading lots of books about Montessori method, and then attended the conferences and workshops. And then I have just linked few YouTube videos where I have added from blogger moms which all these videos have helped me to understand Montessori, and these all helped me to understand what it really was, and joined Catholic homeschooling Montessori group and Montessori homeschooling group on Facebook. And then I started observing my child, and I started making note of what toys he's interested in. Like my Eric was always interested in making something, building something. So I've included lots of open-ended blocks and building something always with a screw or a driver. So those I included those kind of toys. And initially, when we started off, I saw that he was so interested in vacuuming and mopping that he would never give me the vacuum cleaner. So I let him do it. I know it takes a lot of time, but I let him do it. And there was time when we were trying to get through the language lessons, and nothing was moving ahead. So I had to include the dinosaurs, because dinosaurs is the thing which he's so fascinated about. So we included dinosaurs in everything, including language, maths, everything. And then following your child and understanding his interests, needs, what sparks his imagination or interest, and allowing him to explore that skill in the limits permissible. That is, when they say follow the child, it initially used to make me confused that, okay, my child is throwing things, should I follow the child? Should I not say? So later on, when I read about it and I understood that there will be an urge to throw things, to explore that aspect as well as they're growing. So what do we do? So we say that books should not be thrown, books are for reading. And then we include another activity like, let's throw the ball into a small bin or a small basket. So let's do that. So that's how we redirect. So lots of redirecting the child is required during the first 0 to 6 years in that first plane of development. So, so the following child doesn't mean that you let the child do whatever he wants, but you redirect him in the way that is permissible. And then preparing the environment. This is a small setup which we have started off with. We didn't start off with this, but this setup I have made for St. Patrick's Day feast, where I've included language and maths. This tray here, it shows the objects which are starting with the letter P, which makes a sound P, and then some popsicle sticks and games, and then the letter, small letter and big capital letter matching. So what I have done is I have enabled the environment in such a way there is a lot of safe movement for the child, and there are no hazardous or choking materials around, because in Montessori blogs and Instagram pages, we see a lot of pictures with small water beads and pom-poms and whatnot. But these all things are has choking hazard. So please be very, very, very sure. Make sure that you don't include them when the child is still in the mouthing phase and doesn't understand and keeps everything in the mouth. Please don't include any such kind of things. It's okay if they don't explore that kind of does explore things through that particular small material. So, and then remove the noisy toys, which the toys meaning they start making the sound and revolving, right? Drawing, drawing, drawing. So all those kind of things I stopped, and I've included only toys which they have to use to make their hands to build with, and they have to do something with the toy. So those kind of toys I have included, and also included toys which have a particular skill tagged along to it, and placed all of them, all the materials at the child's eye level and in our living room, because I felt putting them in a room. I myself am a person who needs to see things and to understand things and feel things. So if I put it in a room, then education happens only when we go to that room. So for me, as a personal thing, it did not. I could not connect to that idea. So I always arranged the materials in our living room. And then I've contained these activities in small trays, like how you're seeing here. And then I have set up the materials based on the skill he's working with. And academically, how is it different from the normal way of teaching? Apart from the thing that we prepare the environment and we observe and keep the activities, I would like to, the main thing that striking thing I would say is the lessons are, shown rather than taught. the adult will sit along beside the child and show how to keep the counter. For example, if you're taking this counter setup, which we were doing when we were doing the creation lesson, on the day 4, the God created sun, moon, and the stars. So we chose the star counters, and when we are placing out the counters, we show 1, 1, 2, 2. So that's how we show, but we don't make too much of explanation or teach this is to this. No, their child themselves will be able to do things and explore, and there will be a control of error. Control of error meaning there will be exactly 55 counters, so that if the child does keep it wrong anywhere, the child will be able to self-reflect and go back and see where the child has kept it wrong and then keep it right accordingly. So all the materials which Montessori has devised has this control of error, which is the beauty in itself, that the child himself will be able to identify whether it's right or wrong and will be able to rectify their own mistake then and there. So yes, it's a very hands-on and self-learning approach. And it emphasizes on 3 hours of dedicated work cycle, including practical life and sensorial. And yes, this is one more area where we are trying to reach the 3 hours, but haven't reached more than 2.5 hours yet. So this I have just included to show that this was the static edition, which my son Eric was doing a couple of weeks ago. It includes this cube materials, which says that it's the 1000 cube. So yeah, I'll start off with this. This red bars you can see, this is the 1 bar, and this the 10 bar you see has 10 beads. So, and then how it is all set is it's beautifully shown to the child, like how how each 10 bar, if you make 10 of them, it becomes 100 square, and 10 of 100 squares will make a cube, 1000 cube. So the child doesn't imagine, oh, 1000 with zeros and hundreds. Okay, it doesn't go like, all that imagination in the mind, but I have the actual information. Oh, this is how 1000 cube will be. This is what a quantity is. This has 1000 beads in it. So the child understands, and it is very important at this stage of learning, because once they move to the abstract level, they will be able to connect it both and do it in an abstract level in their mind itself. But at this stage, when they're learning the concepts before 6 in the first plane, they need the help of these materials, and they need to sensorially explore what it is to understand the concepts or the additions or anything for that matter. And here I've included the writing of my child. I just included this to make sure to tell that he has done copy work or any writing for that matter, hardly like 4 hours in this whole of 3 years, I would say. And he's able to write because he has had the lots of activities, free writing activities of, using the salt tray, cutting, pasting, and then threading, all these activities, which really help the child. At the age of 6 only, they say, the research says that the bones of the child are, structured enough for them to hold the pencil properly and to write properly. So till that time, what do? You help the child with all these activities which help them to strengthen their bones. And this is the setup to show the multiplication, where it clearly shows how 7 ones are 7, 7 twos are 14. So the child, it's just you need to show. I just showed second and third table, and he was doing it by himself, and he's able to do it. It doesn't mean that he will get it right all the time, but he will work on it by himself. So these all things create an interest rather than just writing it out 7 1 7. What is 7? 7 2 is 14. Okay. And imagining that comes in the next stage. But the 0 to 6 stage, where 3 to 6 stage, this is very important, so that they'll have the concrete experience to understand what actually 7 twos means. And then, did we start off with language or mathematics? No, we started off with Bible stories and living liturgically and the rosary mysteries, which was all hands-on and the practical. I felt this living of faith is a practical aspect to us, and it also has a sensorial component to it. So we started off with that, and living liturgically is one thing which sparks me, is my interest, and makes me feel it's all worth it. So during the feast, we just for the month we just chalk out what all feast we're going to celebrate, and just come up with certain activities which will help him enhance his skills as well, and also talk about the story and the saints and what happened about our faith. So this is some setup for the Transfiguration feast, and this I want to dwell a little bit upon the ice where the flowers where I have frozen and made him to explore. And this was a beautiful time for him to explore how the water becomes a solid, and again the solid becomes a water liquid, and then in just not the academic aspect of it, but I was able to talk about Saint Therese and how why flowers were there, and how the shower of roses happened when she passed away to Jesus, and all that was beautiful conversations we have when we celebrate these feasts in this way. And this is something which I've come up with for St. Patrick's Feast and the lacing activity, if you see here with the shamrock. And this is something which Eric was very interested in making for Feast of Our Lady of Lourdes. So we come up with Play-Doh and the pistachios and the stones. He loves digging with the stones and the what do you call it? JCP. Yeah, I think so. He was very obsessed with that. So he would do everything with that. So this was all beautiful experience for us. And why practical life and sensorial? Because while your toddler needs a lot of time just to play and explore, the most important structured activities to provide are simply practical life and sensorial activities. So at this age, children want to imitate adult work and they're constructing themselves. So these developmentally appropriate, structured, practical, and sensorial activities captures their interest, which in turn increases their concentration and which is the first step of education. So we started off not only with the faith aspect, but we also included lots of practical life washing, laundry, and things like that. And then other sensorial activities like with playing with chenna and dal and rice and so on. And then how did we start with max? So while talking and while cooking, I always used to count 1, 2. Can you give me 2? Can you give me 3? So once I understood that he's able to identify 2, quantity 2, then I actually gave him a formal presentation, and I did not have any cards, counters or cards at that point in time, the sandpaper letters. I just took a piece of card post paper and then I painted 3, 4 times so that there'll be a different texture, and then the child can feel that there is a difference for the symbol and how the symbol of 1 looks like. And then we just use the same pebbles to understand 1 means 1, 2 means 2 pebbles, and so on. And then how did we start off with language? Before reading comes writing, is what Maria Montessori says. So we had lots of activities like tracing, cutting, salt tray, letter and symbols, and whatever writing, and on cardboard coloring. So we had all these things. And when I saw that he was ready to understand the symbols, then I have made some setups like this where the in one tray we had the objects related to one particular alphabet sound, that is A means ha. It includes all the objects like Saint Anthony, astronaut, alligator, so on. And here the tray where it has the objects with the letter C sound k. So cross, clip, cow, so on. And here we have the picture cards of women being healed by Jesus. So there is this lesson where we have to have story sequencing is one part of the curriculum. So one of the lessons. So the beauty of Montessori is such that we need not do that only that story as such. We can use any story we want. So as including faith is very important aspect for our homeschooling for us. So I have included whenever we were having any feast, we include that story, or if there's no feast and we actually accidentally come across any Bible story, we include that story by so, and it is a very important step before the actual reading happens. And then do we need to purchase all the materials? No, we have actually started off with small beads, whatever we had, we actually colored them, me and Eric together. He didn't understand why we were doing that for, but later on he understood. And then to the left, you see this colored beads. And then right is the spindle box is what they say, which presents them the concept of 0. As in for 0, there's nothing. And for 1, there's 1. For 2, there are 2 forks. So initially, actually, a spindle should be there, but whatever we have at hand, we use that to enforce the lessons. And our study room at present looks somewhat like this, though it is not a Instagram worth or Pinterest worth picture. but I don't have any fancy shelves, Montessori shelves as such, but whatever sofas and tables are there, I use them. So this is a center table where we have the calendar, which Eric every day moves and sees what day it is, and we for the month we keep what feast we are going to celebrate and mark the novenas. And as it is Easter season, we were actually working on this Good Shepherd material, and we are doing the Psalm 23, and we have a Bible over there. So here down we have the movable alphabet and some phonics books and my journal. And then this is Andrew's shelf, where I have included a book which has the sensorial exploration to it. And as he was interested in playing with this fire engine truck, I have included that and the book related to it. You need not include a book all the time, but because it was there, I just kept it. And if you see this dabbas, he was actually very interested in opening and closing the boxes. So I've included that in a tray so that he was actually, it was a hit. When I kept that, the next day he took it and he was sitting and he was working on that. If time permits, I'll show you a video of that. And then I have included a musical instrument here and other, which will help with the fine motor skills I've included. And there is this coloring tray and coloring tray which has the crayons as well as this watercolors, which is a mess free. Just you put the water and the color comes out as such. And this is Eric's shelf where we were working on the static edition, and now we have moved to dynamic edition. So we were doing this life cycle of turtles at that time, and these two are the books he loves, the animal, and he loves animals and sea creatures. So we were doing a life cycle of the turtle, so it was there on his shelf. And here, if you see in the small tray, there's a pencil box and some letters, and these are the vowels and the books which he had made by himself. That's another aspect of Montessori, that they make books by themselves, as in either they write it, they punch it, they make the whole book, and they start writing or whatever they feel is important, they are allowed to write. So we were doing the long vowel sound, so this is what he has done. And we also have done a book on Saint Joseph, the feast of Saint Joseph. We have done books like that.
Rajita?
To the right method. So which helps me.
Now it's fine.
Yes, Chechi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, okay. So here is the alphaphonics book where we have it is similar to the Dwyer's method and we follow this. And here I have set up that static addition material. And please make sure when you're making the shelves to not include any choking parts or hazardous material when you have a small baby. And the remaining of the beads which are unsafe for Andrew, I've kept it inside. So when we're working on that, I give it to Eric on the table where Andrew can't reach. So please be aware of these aspects. And yeah, so any questions till now, or shall I continue?
I think you continue and then, we'll ask the.
Okay, sure, Chechi. Okay. So just next, I want to touch upon the ages for 0 to 3. There are very nice books. Like one of the book I have come across is Montessori Babies. I have not read this book, but I have read the great reviews about this book in Montessori groups. So I have mentioned a link to that book here. And then this mother's Nikki's blog, which has a series of things and activities what you can do for a Montessori baby from the 0 onwards. So you can go check out her blog. But what I did during Eric time, I did not know about this Montessori approach, but still I was actually holding the baby very close to me, and I was wearing the baby, though they both did not like me wearing it. They were wriggling up, but still I did it. And then I always used to keep them close to me and feed them on demand, and unless and until there are any medical reasons to not to. So, and with respect to Andrew, by the time Andrew has come, I was able to show other aspects like, showing high contrast cards, like black and white cards. This is picture of Andrew seeing the high contrast cards when he's around 2.5, 3, I guess. So, and when you're doing this, please make sure that you just do it for 2 to 3 minutes or 5 minutes, and don't get into that. Oh, I have to educate now, otherwise he will not get into the mode. The main thing a child needs till the age of 3 is love, affection, and care, and lots of talking and free time, and eye to eye contact, hugs and kisses. So these all are other small things which you can do when you see the baby is trying to develop a particular skill. And from the ages of 3 to 6 months, so like lots of tummy time activities. So, and when you are allowing them to explore certain textures and all, make sure that it doesn't come out. This is small setup which we did for Divine Mercy Feast, where the red and blue paint mixed it with the shaving cream and put it in a Ziploc bag and sealed very well so that doesn't come out. And he was working and understanding and playing with it for a long time. So these are small things, impromptu things you can do. And what other things you can do with the baby at this age is like grasping, giving the ball so that the baby will be able to grasp. Then giving a different shape like a rectangle or a rattle so that the hand-eye coordination happens. And then including the sounds, right? Like rattles and this. I have something like, see, like there's a crinkle mat, which if you see it's a sound. So if you put these kind of things under the baby, they'll be able to move and they'll find that sound amusing. So it's from 6 to 12. What I did in addition to those, I have helped Andrew with movement related. In Montessori method, they say and they highly promote this pickler triangles, but it was too expensive for us. We did not get it. But how can you do that in your own way? You arrange pillows safely on a mat where even if they fall, that they don't get hurt, and you help the baby move and so on. So you see, observe the baby, what the baby is interested in and what the baby is trying to do, and you help the baby. So that's the whole Montessori method is. And for 1 to 3 years, there's another book by the same author, The Montessori Toddler. So you can check out this book. I haven't read it yet. And also the same Nikki mom, she has that blog where you can find out activities for the toddler. And it is the time you can help the child to improve their fine motor skills and pincer grip, and then the sensorial play and practical life, whatever you want to include, like walking on the line, mopping, dusting, laundry, all these things, present it to the kid in such a way that they'll be interested in doing it in the later phases of their life. And lots of outside walk and reading books and so on. And yes, I wanted to talk about my struggles. It was difficult to set up the environment. And even now, I feel it's a struggle for me to set up the environment because I feel overwhelmed about what to include and what not to include. And next, to be patient with my child's learning. Yes, it was a struggle, especially during when we are doing the language. Everything else, Eric was able to pick up fast and he's moving fast. But language, when he was 3 years old, he got the sounds of the letters in just 2 days, all 26 alphabets. I thought it's just that's it. Next, I'm going to blend and it's going to be over. But no, it took us 1.5 years to come to the point of blending. And it is very important that and it is really frustrating as an adult. You know that your child can get the sounds in a day, but you're not able to blend them. When you think as an adult, you feel like, oh, why is this happening? Why? And how to do it? It is really a demanding process, but it is demanding. But the key thing is to be patient and not to lose hope that they will get to that point. That is really important. And then about learning about this method and implementing it at home, because Montessori is always found in the school environment. They have the whole beautiful setup, and the child just goes in, explores the materials, enjoys the materials, understands and comes out. But doing it at home is total different ball game. To what to include, what not to include, and how to do it. It was really challenging at that moment when I was learning. And still also it will be, because I have to learn the next phase of development. So next, finding time when life events are happening. Yes, that was my biggest struggle when I was pregnant with Andrew. And during the 9th month, I was really not in the mood to give any lessons. I was really upset that I was not able to give, but I did not want to give. But we took it slow. So keeping, being patient with yourself and understanding the life events that are happening, and after Andrew was born and he was 3 years old, my grandmother passed away, and that time also we had to travel and we were not able to have the classes as such. But the thing is, holding on to it and coming back again to the point, right? So that's what matters. And these things will be there. But in spite of it, it is okay. Learning will happen. It need not be a whole formal set type, but for learning will happen, and you will get it all together. And to deal with emotions and frustration when you set it a particular activity and that goes untouched, he won't choose it. What do you do? So that these all things have been like a real struggle for me, and finding sources from where I can get the proper materials, because anything you say Montessori is like high priced and it's so difficult to get such materials. But how do you get it? From where? So all these have been my struggles. And the tips I would want to say for mothers or for parents or who want to start homeschooling or Montessori inspired homeschooling or any homeschooling for that matter is to prepare yourself well spiritually, technically, intellectually, and physically, and let love be the guiding light to educate your child. And observe the child on a regular basis, his mood, his appetite, what he wants to learn, what he doesn't want to learn, what he's interested in, what he's not interested in. But observing that alone doesn't mean that my child was not interested in doing any language thing. It doesn't mean that I'll stop doing language activities. It means that I'll include language activities in such a way that it sparks his interest. That's what we need to observe here. And then exploring the daily rhythm. I'm kind of a person where it is difficult for me to stick from 9 to 8, 9 to 10. This is what I'll be doing, and especially with the small baby at hand, it really was not possible. So understanding and finding a rhythm. Okay, by before lunchtime, these all things is what I want to finish, and after lunch, and this is what I want to finish. So understanding and exploring a rhythm for yourself for the day actually helped me. And then having visual reminders of for yourself and the child, because we are at home, things get done, things don't get done, we are lost, there are guests, there are so many other things happening parallelly. So visual reminders actually help us. And observe the time when both of you are fresh and are good enough to start off with a work cycle. Though if I was not able to start off with a 3 hour work cycle, but my goal is to reach there, but that doesn't mean that I will not start till I reach that goal. So you take your baby steps to go there. So you start off with half an hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour, keep increasing, and be flexible about when you want to do it, like be it in the afternoon or late afternoon or morning or night, whichever works for your family. And then be patient with yourself and your child, which is very, very important. And then offer freedom of activities, like you know that your child is not good at something, and that is immediately the thing that you want to go and help him with. Like I was the language is the thing, so I always start with language, so let's start language, but that actually goes into a backfire. So what you do is include activities that he would be interested to work with. So max is the thing, so let's start off with max, give him the options. Even in max, today itself, like in the morning, we were working this dynamic addition, and I have set it up and I've given him. He was doing it and he told, Mama, I'm feeling very tired. I don't want to do it. I told then, okay, fine. Let's play a ball game for some time and then see if you're okay, interested to do it again. So me to come to this point of being able to accept that, okay, there will be a period of false fatigue. And at that time, we gently, direct towards some other game which they are interested, and then come back to the work at hand. That takes time. So, but that helps for them. So that actually helped him to, whatever fatigue he was feeling. After playing, he told, Mama, I'm feeling happy. I'll be doing this. I'll finish this equation by himself. And then prepare for the best, but expect lots of delays and also surprises. As in, sometimes they'll surprise you by understanding the concept just like that. And sometimes there'll be like delays, like months and ages of delay, years of delays. But that is okay. That also will happen. And it is not easy, but we are meant to take the narrow way, and we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. So with that, I would like to conclude my PPT.
Thank you so much, Rajita. That was beautiful. And I'm sure all of us who have joined this meeting, we've got a fair idea of what is really the Montessori inspired way of doing homeschooling. This is far too vast a topic, but
Yes.
I think Rajita has managed to kind of put all of it together in a way so that we at least understand the gist of it. It's not possible to understand all of it in one session, but at least I'm sure all of us have understood a little bit, or we've got a sneak peek into this vast world. No, so if any of us would like to ask any questions, please feel free to ask your questions, and we will stop sharp at 8 o'clock. Oh, it is
It's
already.
already passes. Sorry. It's okay, Chechi. I can have. It's okay. I can stretch till 8:30. No
You
issues.
can. Okay. All right.
Yes.
If anyone would like to ask any questions, please feel free to unmute and ask your questions. For those of us who do not have an exposure to Montessori inspired methodology of learning, I've noticed that all of my children, Shruti, do you want to say something?
It's not exactly regarding Montessori. I want to ask you about homeschooling.
Okay.
So is that okay to ask here? Like
If there is something, okay, if nobody has any other questions,
yes, sure, sure.
Montessori related, then I guess we can take that up. The alternatively, what we can do is I will share my number here on the chat. And if you can be in touch with me, I can also share the future meetings. And also, if you have any clarifications, you can speak with me. I can also put you on to people. If you let me know where you're calling from or where you're located, then I can put you on to other homeschooler
Yes,
homeschoolers
that would be good. Yeah.
from that area as well. But until then, is there anyone who has specific questions about Montessori? Because we may not get Rajita again soon. I mean, maybe for one more meeting before she has her travel plan. So I just want to focus on Montessori at the moment. And so if anyone wants to ask any questions related to Montessori, please go ahead. That's my number. If you could save my number and please message me so that I can save your number and also keep you posted about all the future meetings that are going to come up. We are definitely planning on a meeting where we call the adults, those who've been homeschooled and they have graduated or they've moved into university. We have Nadisha who was homeschooled and then she moved into university. Now she's a homeschooling mom herself. So we have some wonderful people who've been through this journey themselves. And we will be having meetings in the future so that each of us, we are able to hear from the homeschoolers themselves, those who have been homeschooled, what it was to be homeschooled. And so that's something that is in the pipeline. I will keep you posted, but please, in the meanwhile, please take down my number and be in touch with me if you can. Okay. Looks like we do not have any other questions related to Montessori specific. Do we close or do we Shruti, maybe you can ask your question then.
Yeah, thank you. See, actually, I'm a homeschooling mom of 4 children. I've been homeschooling for the past 2 years.
Okay.
My eldest son, his name is also Eric. He's now 7.5 years.
Okay.
So, what I want to know is, we live in Muscat, Oman, and I understand like a lot of parents are doing homeschooling in India. So, in case in future, like if we have to put them back to school, like for any circumstance, like what will be the challenges that we'll be facing? Like I'm now following a curriculum from US, so so when we have to go back to the Indian system, like like how will we show up proof or like the second language thing? Like I'm starting to teach him Latin from this year. So yeah, so the Indian system we have either Hindi or Malayalam, like so the differences is there, no? Like so, what are things that we should keep in mind, like at this early stage, that in case if we have to go back to school?
I think the only thing that you'd probably, like you rightly said, is probably the language. Okay, but
Yeah.
other things if you're following, whether it's a US system, it's a Catholic,
Yes.
curriculum, or it's something that you have put together. Generally, the homeschoolers do fairly well. Even if you're going to put them back in a school, you have to put them back when you come back to India or whatever it is. They generally do fairly well.
The interviews,
Yeah,
the interviews that we are giving.
interviews.
So,
There are people.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so continue, please. Yeah.
There are people who move, like say, for instance, from Bangalore to, now I'm just saying Kerala. In
Yeah.
Bangalore, they wouldn't have learned Malayalam as a second language. Uh,
Yes.
I was someone like that. I was studying in Bangalore for up until my 5th standard. And then when I moved to Kerala, I had to learn Malayalam. So during
Okay.
summer holidays, I picked up whatever they covered from nursery to 5th standard. I picked up
Yes.
that summer break. And then,
Yeah.
so it wasn't very difficult. Actually speaking, it's not very difficult for the children also to pick up the
Okay.
language.
And at early years, like grade 1, grade 2, like how do we keep all the records, like for the future purpose, like for the higher classes? Do we
Yeah.
have to keep the works? How do we keep those works?
I think it's always best to keep the work, to journaling also, because at any time, if someone says that you've not been educating your children,
Yes. Yeah.
you have proof of what you have been doing as well. There are a lot
Okay.
of parents who do it. There are a lot of parents who don't really do it as well. But if you are someone who has, genuine concerns about this, then it's a good thing to just journal what you've done through the day. It's good
Okay.
for us also, because tomorrow when we're doing something, we know exactly what we covered yesterday. So my children actually, whatever they have done, whether it is even if it's cooking something, they'll journal it. If they've learned something in language, then they'll journal it. So it's always better to journal what you're doing. And also, if it's possible, to keep it, like to file the things that they're doing, worksheets, examinations that you're giving, what they've covered. It's always good to document it.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'll message you. I have few more doubts, but I'll message you. Thank you so much.
So I think we will wind up for this evening. Thank you everyone for joining in. And I've put my number on the chat box. My name is Sharu, and I'm based out of Bangalore. So if you want to connect with others who are from your locality or your city, then also you can get in touch with me. Not that I know everything and I know a lot of people, but then I'm sure we can connect. We have homeschooling networks, and we can connect and help each other to kind of be in a fellowship or a support group. Okay. All right. So thank you so much, Rajita. That was wonderful.
Thank you, Chechi. Thank you, Chechi. Thank you for having me.
Very, very inspiring. And the most beautiful thing was, for us as parents to be prepared. Technically, physically, all of that, yes. But I think more so spiritually, just because we are homeschooler parents does not mean that we are saintly parents. But definitely God has handpicked us for our children, even with all of our imperfectness, right? And
Sure.
it's beautiful how we are not just, I think in the whole process, we ourselves are, being spiritually prepared and schooled by the Holy Spirit.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much. And good night and good morning to
Yeah.
all who are.
Thank you.
Places.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.